Hello and welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and in this episode we're taking a look at another Marvel Gallery diorama piece from Diamond Select, this time of the amazing Spider-Man himself. Spidey is one of those iconic Marvel characters that I think pretty much everybody should have in their collection in some form or another. And I've got a few Spider-Man action figures already, I have a few other odds and ends here and there, but the one thing I don't really have is, like, to me, an iconic Spidey statue. And when I first saw this guy announced, that's kind of what appealed to me, because I felt like that this was going to be that kind of one statue that I could use in my collection to kind of just fill that gap. So needless to say, I got a little bias, and I have a little bit of high hopes coming into this. I hope that they stay this high once we do get this guy out of the box, but hey, speaking of, let's talk about that real quick. And the packaging is identical to pretty much any type of Diamond Select statue that you've seen in the past. And in particular, with the Marvel style lately, what they've been doing is this kind of etched metal look with whatever logo they have up front. Pretty simple, pretty much also straight to the point. It lacks a lot of personality, but it gets the job done at least, and you know it's kind of from the same series. And this being a diamond piece means we also have pretty large windows, which is great to have. So we have a window in the center, of course, we have a window on the left, a window on the right, and as always, that handy-dandy Diamond Select sunroof so Spidey can get a tan. The back of the box has very nice, very quick, very simple bio, tells you everything you need to know about Spider-Man, and hey, that's just fine for me. And it also lets us know that this piece was designed by Nelson X. Asensio and sculpted by John St. John. And I should add, I've already looked at a few other pieces that are kind of in this same series, and I've had good things to say about them for the most part, so I'm hoping that we can keep that going here. So, with that said, we're done with the box. Let's go ahead and get Spidey out of there and take a closer look at him from all angles. Alright, and here is our Spidey out of the packaging. Where do we begin with him? Well, first thing I usually talk about is likeness. But, this is a Spidey in full costume, so not really necessarily Peter Parker likeness to talk about. But we do still have a likeness of whether or not it looks like Spider-Man, so let's take a closer look at that to start with. And, yeah, I would have to say, yes, of course, this looks like Spider-Man. You would be very hard-pressed to find a Spider-Man piece of any kind, a figure, a statue, any kind of merchandising that had a Spider-Man face on it that didn't look like the correct Spider-Man face, mask, or costume, whatever you want to say here. So, yes, this totally looks like Spidey, and it's a pretty interesting version of Spidey here. I couldn't actually tell from looking at it in the box, but once he's out of the package, you can see he's in this much more interesting pose than I expected. And that pose is the fact that he's kind of actually facing downwards a little bit more than I thought he was. He's very, very pointed down, very angular towards the direction of the ground. I thought he was actually going to be a little bit higher up in this piece here, maybe a little bit further back, so that you could actually see a little bit more of his face. But no, his body's kind of very much hidden almost, and I don't know if that was the intent or not, but it definitely feels like it's hidden. That's the right word I want to use here, because so much of him is kind of squished together and compressed in this area here that a lot of his body detail, unfortunately, gets a little bit lost in the mix, and that makes me a little sad. That makes me a little bit disappointed. We'll take a quick look at Spidey's backside as well, and we'll check out his butt, of course, while we're there, too. You can get a lot of his back, which is nice. And that red there, too, is very bright. It's a different red than anything else on his outfits. That really pops out a lot, interestingly enough. But, as we move him around, especially from the front, like this is the front of this piece here, it's cool looking, and it kind of reminds you of like a Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, especially with the spaghetti string webbing we got here. But I don't like, I guess, just how kind of pointed down he is. You lose a lot of him, and basically, unless you're looking at this piece from a higher angle, which, to be honest, you probably need to be. Like, if you're not displaying this from a very elevated position, you're going to lose a lot of detail here, I feel like, and that kind of makes me sad. But, on that note, if you are looking at him from, like, above, like, let's say if I was to kind of tilt him up a little bit like this, then, yeah, he looks a lot better, especially from this angle. Like, this is how you should be looking at him, is like from this. So if you are displaying him, this is the way to do it. Do not put him on eye level. He needs to be far above eye level, in my opinion, to really be appreciated. So, yeah, just one thing to kind of note about this piece here. And, right now my camera is actually a little bit underneath him, so that's why you're getting more detail. When I'm talking about him, I'm actually, a few inches above him, easily a few inches above him, because I'm bending over to talk about this guy here. So whether you like that or don't like it, that's going to be up to you. I think that is a definite personal preference, but that's just my pro tip for how you're going to display him. So let's pull out a little bit, and let's look at the rest of this piece and how he stands up with everything here, because he has a really cool diorama part here. So he's on this kind of almost maybe a chunk of a subway post or something that's kind of fallen down. We got some nice rubble around him, some nice smoky effects. What's interesting too about the Spidey, as we look at that base, is he doesn't really have any translucent effects, no transparent effects here. This is all painted up here. This is just kind of like painted smoke. It almost looks more like Stay Puft Marshmallow Goo from Ghostbusters, so maybe he just helped out the Ghostbusters. I don't know. I mean, this is meant to be a classic Spidey. This could be Spider-Man 1984 for all we know. And, you know, considering how the subway station kind of looks, because I'm assuming it's a subway station based on what we're looking at here, or it's some Art Deco piece of a building, but I'm pretty sure it's meant to be like a subway station. Yeah, you know, it's cool. I like some of the nice rubble here. Yeah, this is, especially this piece here, it's nice. This piece of spider webbing here is interesting. I hope it's not meant to be connected. I don't think it is. And based on the photos, I'm pretty sure it's not. It's just kind of odd to have this like one little section here that is, this is really the only transparent part here of this piece. It's just that one little section there. I mean, to be fair, this is the only section that is actually transparent among the entire statue. It's an odd place to have this just errant piece of spider webbing. It really offers nothing to the story. It's just kind of bizarre, but you know, you get to see a little bit more of the base now from this angle. I really like this piece here. I just like how that looks. There's a lot of detail in that. The rest of the rubble is great too, though. I mean, you know, I always love these parts of their PVC statues. I think they always look great. But this smoke is pretty janky, guys. The smoke, it's nothing to brag about at all. This subway post is nice here too, but it's a little small, you know, like you can see here, especially the whole effect, you can see where Spidey is on this piece, you know, in relation to it. It's a little small, and I feel like it's meant to be bigger. They probably couldn't make it bigger just because otherwise this statue would topple over, be very top heavy, it wouldn't work. The way this piece works now is very much about a counterbalance to keep this in one position and keep him steady. But maybe that piece of rubble should have been something else. I mean, I'm assuming they went with that just based on color choice, because this nice kind of bronze green really helps with the red and blue of Spidey's outfit in particular. So there's that. That's definitely, I think, something to weigh into this consideration here. You know, just looking at it as a whole, though, it does look very striking. This is a good-looking Spidey piece. And, you know, as I look at it as a whole now and not just, like, focusing in on the one part over here, it looks very good. Like, I think this is a very dramatic-looking Spidey piece also. This is him mid-battle, which I think is really interesting. And it looks like he's really kind of taking in the scene also. Like, he's not about to jump right in. He's definitely been in the fight, and he's currently in that fight. But he's kind of taking a peek, getting a bird's eye view, or in this case, a spider's eye view of what's happening, and about to strike. And you definitely can get that, I think, that story with how his hand is perched there too. The Spidey webbing also. Spider webbing is kind of in this odd thing. I do want to talk about the spider web, actually. Let's talk about this webbing here, because that's kind of a weird little thing too. You know, what do you do with the spider web to not have it break instantly when you're packaging it as a PVC figure diorama? That is, I think, the eternal question of these kinds of statues. And what they did here was they kept it a little thicker than normal. And, you know, a good reference point would be like Simon Belmont's whip from their Castlevania statues. That was a very thin piece of plastic, and I had to actually get a second one because that broke immediately. This feels a little bit sturdier, which is good, and they've kind of kept it wrapped up like this. It's definitely tucked against his body. It's a little bit safer than that whip, which was freestanding. So his webbing, nice job. Even if it looks a little thick, it's a little hose-like. You know, I don't detract points from it. It's just something I'm going to point out. But this is, you know, for anybody who's going to be complaining, probably the best way they can do this kind of thing on a statue. You know, I would have thought maybe this would have actually been a transparent piece of plastic, but I feel like they didn't do that because the transparent plastic breaks a lot easier. It's a little bit more fragile and brittle. This does have a little bit of some bend to it, so, you know, it can survive shipping at the very least. So I'm not too worried about that breaking off like I've seen with other statues in the past. Yeah, you know, it's looking really good, honestly. The more I look at it from, like, the camera view and not from how I'm looking at it, it definitely looks very good. I mean, I stand by what I said earlier about how you're going to position this and how you should display it, and that should be elevated. But it's looking pretty solid now. The more I kind of peek at it, I'm really enjoying it a lot more. You know, as far as storytelling aspects of this piece go, it's very good. So my overall impression of this piece is that it's pretty bright, pretty colorful, and I think a very good Spider-Man piece. You know, like I was talking earlier about how, is there one iconic piece, or is this going to be the iconic piece for your Spider-Man collection or your Marvel collection? And, you know, it's tough to say because there's so many Spider-Man things out there, especially in the PVC figure diorama world. But I think this is a very good one. You know, I've seen a lot of Spidey stuff in the past few years from Diamond. I feel like every year we get more kind of comic book version of Spidey anyway. There's plenty of options to choose from. So if this one really isn't your thing, there's definitely others out there. But, you know, I didn't get those for a reason. I didn't like some of the ones that came out in the last few years. Like, there's one that had Spider-Man, I think, like, zipping away while there's some explosions behind him. I didn't quite like that one. There's another one before that, I can't remember what it was, but there's been a few Spideys I've looked at and I've rejected. And this is the one that I've decided to get, and I like it. I do like it. I do kind of wish that maybe the Spidey was posed a little bit different still. You know, even all the things I've said, I wouldn't mind him a little bit higher up, or just having his shoulders pushed back a little bit further. But it is accurate to who Spider-Man is and how he would be posing, and it's also anatomically correct. So, you know, as far as drama goes and the drama of the physical form here, John St. John is a master of that, and he did a great job with it. That's just my personal preference of how I would have preferred to have my Spidey. I said similar things, I think, in the Thor statue review as well. I thought the pose was maybe a little interesting and not necessarily always the most positive way, but it worked. It actually worked, and there's a lot of energy to the piece that this kind of pose brings to it. So in my opinion, I'll say this. As a standalone Spidey piece, if you had nothing else in your collection, I'm going to say no. But if you have other statues to put with it and tell a story and create a scene, yes, this is 100% yes. So as far as iconic Spidey goes, that's a 50-50 for me still. But amongst everything else I collect and own, yeah, I can highly recommend it if that's the case. And I think that is my case here, because I got a bunch of these already. So hey, it works out perfectly for me. Now, speaking of, if you want to get this Spider-Man statue for yourself, go ahead and check out our Amazon affiliate links in the description down below. If you click our links and purchase this statue or anything else from Amazon, it helps us out by generating some revenue and costs you guys nothing extra to use it. So win-win for everybody here. So that's our look at this Diamond Select, Marvel Select PVC figure diorama of Spider-Man from their ongoing Marvel Classic kind of character series. And yeah, they're looking good. They're staying strong for the most part. I got a few nitpicks here and there, but I've still been enjoying this line very much, and I think you will too. So if you haven't been buying them, do start, because they're going to look all really great once they're all completed and all together. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today, and we'll see you guys here again for some more figure reviews, stash reviews, and everything else we do here. And I hope that you think this review has been spectacular too. Oh, Spider-Man puns, they're the worst. See you guys later.